Welcome to Brother Owl's Garden. I'm Brian and I honor your presence here today. Speaking of honor and presence, I have the great honor, we all have the great honor today of the presence of a beautiful, beautiful soul, a wonderful sister who's coming to us from the island of Oahu in Hawaii. And her name is Kahu Lāhela Johnson. Kahu Lāhela, welcome and thank you.
Aloha, Brother Brian. It's such an honor to be here with you. Mahalo for the invitation. Mahalo for this opportunity to share with your listeners. Thank you so much.
I assure you the honor and pleasure is mine. And it's just wonderful to have you grace this humble platform and come here to share what you will today. Now, I've known you kind of in a past life, many, many years ago. Of course, I'm only 29 now, so I don't know how that happened. But Kahu Lāhela and I go back several years, but not in the context that we know each other now within this sacred realm of spiritual awareness. And so it's really wonderful, isn't it, to have met so many years ago in a different context and now to rejoin again in, you know, as our paths have evolved and ascended, here we are again.
It's beautiful. And it's lovely to see who you are today. I know that we've both gone through our transitions and transformations on this journey, and it's wonderful to reconnect.
I thank you for that. And I'll just remind everyone that the beauty that you see and the divinity that you see in anyone else is in fact that same quality within you, recognizing itself reflected in another. So back at you. Now, Kahu Lāhela, can you, many of our viewers, in fact, perhaps both of them, may not know what the title of Kahu means. So let's just start right there and give us some enlightenment on what that term means, please.
Yes. Well, there can be many different kinds of kahu. Some people may be more familiar with the title kahuna. Kahu is not a kahuna. A kahuna is a priest or a priestess who worked in spiritual work, doing it could be working with the light, it could be working with the dark, it's working with spiritual power, having that mana that you speak about, mana, that spiritual power, possessing great spiritual power. And while there are some kahuna today, it's not like the ancient time in Hawaii where there were many kahuna. And kahu means someone who is an expert or a keeper of ancient knowledge, or a gatekeeper, a channel. And so there can be many different kinds of kahu. There can be a kahu of accounting, you can be a kahu of canoe building, you can be a kahu of fishing. And so it's just someone who has a certain awareness and mana. Yes, it does there, and it's very channeled mana. For me, it's something that I became inducted as a kahu by my kumu Karen, Lea Aloha Carol. She passed away in 2019, and I was inducted by her in 2010. And she asked me if I was interested in becoming a kahu under her. She is a kumu, a teacher of Lomi Lomi, which is the Hawaiian massage energy, spiritual energy work. And I was very interested. The night before I was to be ordained or inducted into her halau, her school, I called her and said, Kumu, I don't know if this is something I'm to be doing. Aren't I supposed to be trained? And she said, well, Keakua, divine source, divine spirit, doesn't call the qualified. Keakua qualifies the called.
Oh, I love it.
And when she said that, then it just struck me, and I got it, and I was just covered with, as I always say, chicken skin. And I got it, and I got the understanding of my kuleana, my responsibility. I was stepping into a new role. And as you knew me before, I was a professional photographer, and spirit, divine spirit would have me go on this journey where they said, okay, well, now you're going to be, it's like I got a whisper in in my ear, or a tap on the shoulder. You're going to go in this direction now, where you were using the camera and your eyes to document life on the external. You're now going to put the camera aside and turn your gaze inward and focus your attention in here. And where you used light in photography to capture and document life, you're going to now turn that light on inside and shine that light into the deepest recesses of of yourself. And you're going to go on this most amazing journey. So that's how it began for me. And it was an amazing one that I didn't know what was about to happen. I had no clue as to where I was really truly going, except that I knew this was a spiritual path. I was leaving behind a six-figure income to enter into this world. It was like as if I was standing on the edge of a cliff, and I was being asked to trust and take that leap of faith and take that first step. So that's how, for me, the title Kahu means one who is a bridge for myself. It's one who is a bridge between the physical realm and the spiritual realm, the inner world and the outer world.
Kahu, I feel like a giant log jam of response right now, wanting to come out for everything you've just said. We're just having an impromptu, organic, real kind conversation here, which is how I've gradually just come to, create these episodes with an invited guest like yourself. I don't script things. I might have a couple of things in mind I'd like to cover, but we don't script anything. It's just flow, The first thing I'll say is you cannot even imagine how much what you just told me aligns, directly mirroring and paralleling how I got to wherever it is I am right now. Not exactly in the same order and not exactly at the same point in time, but I can't believe it to the point where I was getting like, I just couldn't believe what you were saying. And since I haven't told you mine, I'll just reflect quickly back to you. I did 6.5 years of nomadic living as a travel photographer. I'll have to show you some images. And you were a professional photographer for wedding events and such. I wasn't into that at all when I knew you, but it came years later. And I reached a point in my photography where I realized, only in hindsight, only looking back at the trail of my images that I had created or captured more accurately, what was intriguing me and what was begging to be expressed out of me was purity. every one of my images, especially my very favorite ones, the ones that spoke most powerfully to me, had a common thread of, I don't want to just say innocence, but purity, innocence and purity, whether it was in the eyes of a child or in the incredibly wrinkled, storied face of a village elder or something. And I traveled all throughout Asia, 6, 7 countries for over 6 years doing this. And my ultimate dream was to go to Bhutan, where I had all kinds of images in my mind about when I get there, I'm going to go photograph this. I'm going to go capture this image. I just can't wait. Da, 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 da. Finally, on my 3rd attempt, because it took 3 years and 3 attempts for me to finally get there, as I was pulling out of the driveway to go to the airport, I turned around and put my entire camera bag back. I said, this is not what I had thought in the past 3 years was going to be my experience, but where I know that I am right now, I am not to bring this camera with me. And the reason is because I am going there to be fully present to the full experience of the full presence. And the camera, although for a while it did serve me and tremendous beauty was captured and shared through it, it was another layer of barrier. Even though I loved it for a long time, and for a long time it was where I was functioning at, and there was nothing wrong with that. But then I moved beyond it. And as I was going on my way to catch the plane at the airport, I said, I don't even want this camera now. Who knew? But I'm not there anymore. I'm not that anymore. And I went there, and I had the little portable phone that I used with no SIM for 9 years or 10 years, just to click a couple of things along the way. But I didn't do any photography at all. And I was completely present. And the way you described your poetic metaphor of using the light, you got me into tears at that, because I hadn't thought of that metaphor, and how it also applied to my experience, and how I had been gazing outward and seeking unconsciously until I was able to see hundreds and thousands of my pictures. Did I realize this is connecting the dots? I can see what's going on here. All of this external stuff is an outward projection and manifestation of what's actually happening here. And then you talked about standing on the edge of the cliff. That's when I lost it. When I basically unplugged from my former life and left everyone and everything that I had ever known, selling and giving away virtually everything, more than 90% of it. A lot of people approached me and said, on one hand, we're kind of excited for you for what you're doing, but on the other hand, we think you're kind of nuts. And I said, well, both statements are completely true concurrently. I am nuts, and you should be excited for me because I'm excited too. And they're like, well, what's your plan? And I said, well, the first thing is I don't have a plan other than to be planless. What I can tell you that I'm doing is this. I am diving headfirst into the abyss of the unknown. I'm not falling and flailing backwards. I'm diving. And the abyss is what you spoke of, the edge of the cliff. Its boundaries are incomprehensible and unknown. And its contents is complete unknowing. I have no idea what's going to happen. But I do know in my soul that this is what I am to do. And frankly, I'm a little late. I should have done it a lot sooner, but for whatever reasons, I wasn't ready yet. But now I am, and now I do. And I knew that if I didn't do it, Kahu, that I was going to perish. I was going to die. And I mean from the inside out, because I became aware that I was dying incrementally on a daily basis by resisting that. And what I came to realize is that it was soul retaking its proper place on the throne of the hierarchy of your being. and we so often put soul, spirit, at the bottom or out of the picture. And you just can't live well when you're that disconnected or upside down. And so sorry for the wordiness of my response, but you really impacted me. And in Thailand, we have a term called ajan. Ajan means like a teacher or master, something along those lines. I am sure that ajan and kahu are interchangeable based on what you said. So thank you for
Yeah.
that clarification very much.
Yes, yes. And another part of this shift for me was my identity. I used to identify as so and so. And as I stepped into this new, this this destiny, I knew I was destined to step into this realm, that I would shift away from my first name, which is Arna, which was my birth name, which I love. But Arna was my identity with my photography business. And my middle name, which is Lahela, is a Hawaiian name because I'm half Hawaiian, half Caucasian on both sides, both of my parents. Born and raised here on Oahu. Grandparents on both sides, Hawaiian, Caucasian. And so I was named after my grandmother, Lahela. Her first name was Rachel, and Lahela is supposed to be the Hawaiianized version of Rachel. But I took it and I looked at la meaning sun or sunlight or warmth. And then hela is a movement of arms stretched out widespread. So I came with that revelation, that aha moment that, oh my gosh, it's widespread light. And it hit me, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's no wonder that I would shift away from and into and onto this new path of the unknown, and yet learning to let go, as you mentioned, having to let go. At that time, it was really interesting how the physical would need to crumble, so to speak, for me.
Yeah, I
And
used to call that the scaffolding crumbling away.
yeah. And so I went through, this was at the end of the housing market crash, the 2008 housing market crash, economic crash. And so we were going through foreclosure on our home and having to file for bankruptcy. And, and we're having to literally let go of everything.
Yeah.
So boom, everything went. And we're just giving things away to people, know. And my mom had this home for us to move here, which we're still in today. The beautiful thing is that at that time, while it was so stressful, it was as though, when you get hit by a wave and you're under the wave and you're tumbling around, and it's disorienting. But it's chaos that is bringing you to where you need to be. And just letting go, trusting and allowing. That's my mantra, by the way: let go, trust, and allow.
Yeah.
Which this little piece was hand carved by this guy who used to live here. And so it has so much meaning for me in having to let go of my identity, let go of my belongings, let go of the way that I knew things to be, let go of my beliefs, let go
Yep.
of of everything, and strip myself down to, okay, so now, we did a lot of work um in that home, a lot of spiritual work, a lot of people coming through this house. It was as if it was a revolving door. Spiritual classes, lomi lomi classes, you name it, just boom, boom, boom. It was like our home was like a center. And then
Yeah.
divine spirit said, okay, so now, we were like a family of about 40 or so people, somewhat clinging to each other out of pure joy with this expanded um, perception of life and spirituality and awareness. And now they're saying, okay, now we need to break you all up and you all need to go off and do your, get out there and do the work now.
Sure.
And that's exactly what happened. And the spirit said, well, we're going to have you here because now you need to have this lesson on light and dark. And that was 2012 that we moved here, and it's been the most amazing journey, and the lessons keep coming. As we learn these lessons, we get another lesson, we learn something new that comes in, and it says it's like you're like going up these rungs of a ladder and letting go more and more of the ego,
Yeah.
and being of service, and just saying and answering the call and saying yes to the call. That's what it's been like. Yeah.
Kahu, another thing that brought me to tears when you were speaking in the very first segment, you said that your kumu told you when you were kind of unsure as to your whether you were worthy and all that. How often does that come up? And she said that Keakua does not call the qualified, but qualifies the called. Man, that's it. That's it. And you can see that if you have an understanding of the New Testament in Christianity. That was so often the case. Who did the Christ select? The outcasts and rejects and the weak and the broken. That's who he hung out with. That's who he ministered to. That's who he chose to follow him, etc. So that theme in spirit is it's an archetype. And I think that the way your kumu responded to you there, that is just the most polished gem that she, and I'm sure that when you heard that, obviously, I'm sure you just broke apart into PEACE from that. Because all of that apprehension and self-doubt and questioning and all that junk about that we carry with us about I'm not actually worthy, or I'm not good enough.
Yes.
What an exhilarating liberation it is when that finally falls off of us, when we are finally ready to, as you said many times, let go. And when we let go, it's also good to remember that when we let go, we're not just letting go of something, we're letting ourselves go from it too. We're freeing us by we're releasing ourselves. When we think that we're releasing something else, we're in fact releasing us from it. Two ways of looking at it. But your story is absolutely, absolutely beautiful. And I just love what you're sharing. Kahu, my favorite Hawaiian word, I don't know a whole lot from when I lived there that I can still remember. But my favorite one of all is pono. And would you share your understanding of the meaning of pono with our viewers?
That is a word that helps one to stay in alignment
Mm.
with your purpose and your truth. And so pono means right, correct, balance, harmony. And and so when you live by pono, pono is to be pono is to do the right thing, not just for oneself, but for the highest good of all concerned. So in the Hawaiian culture, self is the idea of self is not like we have a kuleana, but it's not self-serving. It's being of service. It's being having a purpose
Mhm.
that serves all.
And you said that
Everyone has a role.
kuleana is your
Kuleana.
responsibility or your duty, right?
Exactly. Your kuleana is responsibility, privilege, and duty.
Mhm.
And so you can have many different kinds of kuleana. And when I was inducted by my kumu, and there was a ceremony, and in the Hawaiian way, uh, the kumu would, whoever is passing on this mana and this kuleana to you, would hold you, and then you breathe, you inhale and you exhale, and you receive the breath from your kumu,
The ha.
or who the your ha, yes, her ha, his ha.
And the mana is
and
the spiritual
and
energy again, right?
yes, and you receive her lineage, the lineage of this individual becomes infused into you. You take in this breath, and now it resides within you, and now you have this kuleana, this responsibility. And so I, from that moment, I realized this is huge. I don't get to check out and say, well, I'm gonna clock out now and I'm gonna go home, and no, it's something that you live with on a day-to-day basis.
Mhm.
And because this is a gift, it's precious, and it is alive, and it's an ember that you foster, that
Yeah,
you you take this ember with you everywhere you go, and you don't allow for that ember to be snuffed out.
that's
You
a
keep it
great
alive.
analogy. That's a great
Yeah.
analogy. It's not something you do, it's something you be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So getting back to pono,
Mm.
pono is a big part of being a kahu, or doing the work that I do. And it, it also, it helps me to be ha'a. Ha'a is another incredible word meaning humility, being humble. And because only when you are humble and pono, being in alignment with divine truth and doing what's right for the highest good of all, that divine spirit can work in you, through you, and as you allow grace to flow in you, through you, and as you. And I see myself as a vessel. I offer myself to do the work. They call, I get the call, I answer the call, I go to be of service, and it's not me. It's source, it's pure source love and light and energy flowing through me. But I've got to clean this vessel up. And how I do that is I clear myself through ho'oponopono. And so a lot of people are very familiar with ho'oponopono. So we understand the word pono. And when you place pono in front of pono, it is an amplification of the meaning of that word pono. So, and when you place ho'o in front of that, in front of any word. Ho'o is to cause this to happen, to cause rightness, to cause well-being, to cause harmony, to bring about
Oh,
peace
yeah.
and integrity,
To activate in a
to
way.
activate. Yes.
Okay,
So
great.
yeah. So Ho'oponopono is alive. It is alive. It's an energy. It's a force that when you work with it, you I go to do the work. I cleanse myself through Ho'oponopono, and I have a lovely pule prayer that Kumu had blessed us with that we use. And it's not the four statements. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you, which
Mhm.
is very famous today
Yeah,
through the
that's what most people know it as. Yeah.
right, right. But Ho'oponopono is much deeper than that. And
Okay.
yeah, much, much deeper. Yeah.
Can you take us there and let us
Yeah.
know what's
Yes.
beneath all that and around all that?
Yes. So the original version of Ho'oponopono really was created for and used by the families. Whenever there was any kind of pilikia, trouble, if someone were ill in the family, then they had to do Ho'oponopono, and it took a haku, a facilitator, a medium, someone who is not part of the family, to and most likely an elder, to come in and speak to every member of the family,
Okay.
to ask questions to find out what's going on within this family. And then whoever, if there's the pilikia or the trouble would be, uh, the light would be shown upon that, between two individuals, or between this person and the rest of the family, or whatever the disharmony occurred, and they would flush it to the surface. It's and there are many different processes, many different steps to go through each step, one by one, finding out, talking to each person, finding out what the problem is, allowing for there to be a discussion around it, to unearth the,
Mhm.
the entangled emotions, to reveal the
Yeah. Yeah.
emotions, to bring it to the surface, to bring it out. And
Ehomai.
then, yes, and then to ask for forgiveness, and then to cut the cords, to cut the entanglement, to release it, to let it go, to unbind.
This
And when
is what you're speaking of is energy work. I mean, this is energy work on a group, a family group. I mean, bringing the issue up, and let's be honest, it was probably ugly and unpleasant to deal with, at least for the members that were directly involved in it. Um, but it needed to be identified and addressed, not in judgment and condemnation, but just here's the infection. We found it. Now we need to get it cleaned out. We're not saying we're not putting blame and judgment and all that hellfire and brimstone and all that. But this is energy work, bringing it up. And then, as you said, cutting the cords, severing the energetic bonds that reinforce it and perpetuate it amongst each member. And if there is the pilikia, could be, like you said, an illness. That illness could even be connected to that.
yeah,
And
very much.
a symptom of that, in other words, in the household, if there is discord and imbalance and disharmony amongst the members of the household, well, that energy, because everything's energy, we're shooting out energy all the time. We just can't help but emit it and radiate it. So if you're filling the household with that, and the Japanese have a word that I love, it's called byoki. I don't love what it is. I love that they have an exact word for it. Byoki, B-Y-O-K-I. Byoki is that toxic energetic residue that fills a place where there is great discord between people, violence, hatred, arguments, deceit, all those negative things. Those are literally radiating out that energy, and that literally builds up as residue like dust bunnies under your bed, you know, and that's
Yeah.
called byoki. And
Mm.
so, what you're describing is family energy therapy.
Hmm. And it involved everyone. Everyone had to participate. If someone was unwilling to participate and they were part of the problem,
Yeah.
then they would be removed from the family. If
Oh,
you're not going to be willing to be a part of the healing, then you would be almost, just excommunicated from the
yeah.
family.
No, it
You
seems
know?
harsh, but if the healing is going to take place and the healing needs to take place, if you're not going to flow with it, but you're going to oppose it, there can't be a place for you in that healing. But can that person prevent the healing, or was
Yes,
it just done without them?
they could continue, but then the relations were now strained. So
Yeah,
it it, it they would have to cut, sever sever that
yeah.
relationship.
And it seems to me energetically that they would not have received the um, infusion of the healing, the results of the healing, even though the others probably could. But that person who opted out, I don't know if they would be able to receive the healing or not. Because, you know, like if you do Reiki or you do any kind of energy healing or any such thing, if the intended person is unreceptive or opposed to it, you're wasting your time. They can't receive it. You must respect free will. And if that person is engaging their free will against receiving the healing, then don't even bother to send it, because it will be, return to sender, you know,
Yeah,
address
yeah,
unknown.
yes, yes,
So yeah,
yes. Unless until a later date, they were to
yeah,
want to,
good
remedy
point.
this.
Good point.
Yeah,
Good point.
yeah.
You can
But
send
it
it and
did.
it's there to be picked up when you're ready. It's
Yeah, yeah,
being held at the post
and
office of energy.
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
and so it's interesting that the Ho'oponopono uh, procedure has been very, very simplified into one little nugget for mass consumption. And it has value and it is good and it is a healing agent and it's wonderful. But it's very good to know from you the explanation of its true background and how it's just a part of something far more involved and far reaching and
Mm.
encompassing than just that statement, that
It
four-point statement.
the entire process could take days, weeks, months, sometimes years.
Wow.
So it was not just a quick, a quickie, but then again, with time things evolve. And there was a wonderful woman by the name of Morna Simeona. And in the 70s and 80s, she had a spa at the Royal Hawaiian Hotel, and I believe also at the Kahala. And she was the responsible for these spas and the well-being. And she saw people coming and going. The uh, tourists, travelers from around the world. And she noticed that they were carrying a lot of heaviness, a lot of illness and weight, uh, heaviness, density. And when she would work on them, and so uh, she took Ho'oponopono and she shifted it into a more contemporary, updated it more for a contemporary lifestyle. And and which works as well. She called it self-identity through Ho'oponopono, or Sith, Sith. And she was able to use Ho'oponopono, but more on a personal basis per an individual,
Mhm.
and do the healing work that way, and
Mhm.
release all of this pain and
Sure.
suffering that
Yeah.
they were carrying.
Yeah.
So that's how it's evolved through the years. But the Hawaiian elders still consider Ho'oponopono to be the original version, and any Ho'oponopono work, any pono work done outside of the original version, they prefer that it be called something else,
Yeah.
which is why
So,
she called it Sith.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can create a modality or an application, whatever, based on it. But if you're not going to do the actual traditional process, you shouldn't be, you should say inspired by or based on, and I call it this or that.
Yes. Yes.
Speaking of which, Kahu Lāhela, what's interesting to me is this is kind of a vague and broad question, but maybe there's something that'll pop up for you. For those who are interested, like myself, what could you tell us, just a little bit, or an overview about the traditional Hawaiian spirituality? We're talking pre-Christianity. We're
Mhm.
talking, when it was in its heyday, in its height. I know there was a decline towards the end, and then in came the missionaries, almost like clockwork. But we're talking about what, not not so much the doctrine, but the practice. What were the traditional spiritual practices of the ancient Hawaiians? And also, how does that carry into today? I know there's a renaissance in full force since about the 1970s or so. Could you give us some background
Yeah.
on that, please?
Yeah. So yes, thank you for bringing that up. Because there was a time when the missionaries came, and Hawaiians were uh, being told not to speak Hawaiian anymore, and so it was the identity, of being a Hawaiian person is through language. So if you go pre-missionary, pre foreign, um, um, anyway, so if you go back, then you realize that everything Hawaiians were just like all indigenous peoples, connected to the land, and through language. Indigenous peoples' languages were not written languages; they were oral, and language was passed down from generation to generation to generation. That's your umbilical cord to your ancestors. And so Hawaiian spirituality is just pure connection with nature. Everything you did was prayer. Everything is prayer. Whenever you're working, if you're la'au lapa'au, a plant medicine person, you pray over your plants. You pray over your herbs. You pray, and you communicate with them. You talk to them, and the plants communicate back. So there is this reciprocating energy and exchange of conversation, that they knew that they had this. It was, you didn't do anything without prayer. Prayer was in everything that you did. When you prepared food, you prayed over the food. When you were planting, you prayed over your plants as you're planting, or when you're picking your fruits or your vegetables, your plant medicine, you're asking for permission to gather, to and you're going to let the plant know what you're going to do with it. You don't just go and snip here and snip there, and make your poultice or what have you. You had a conversation to let the plant know exactly what your intentions are. So you're always communicating. And it was this, the understanding was that the human existence was part of the whole fabric of of life, not above, not over nature, but in with nature. And so you exchange your your breath, and as you breathe, you're receiving, you're giving your life force breath to the plant. The plant in turn is giving you your breath. So this beautiful,
Yeah.
so my gecko is going.
Some of my geckos may respond in kind.
So that there's no separation. There's no separation. And that's Hawaiian spirituality, is being in tune with nature, being able to read the signs, the wind. Whenever you're outdoors, I don't know, I've done a lot of celebrations of life as well. And as soon as we're, you know, spreading the ashes out, the wind picks up, whoosh, and just comes right through us. And you know that that's spirit. So we have to pay attention and open ourselves up to wearing, it's like your whole body is covered with antenna all the way around you, so that you can see and you can feel, and with your spiritual eyes and your ears, and hear and receive messages, because that all of that is in the unseen realm. And as we know from in science, and I love Greg Braden, and he says that everything that is matter is only 4%. The 96% is in the unseen realm. And that's what we work with when we do spiritual work. This is how we coexist, we co-create everything that we want to create with the universe, with Keakua, with source, with pure source energy.
Yeah. What you're saying is resonating so well, I'm sure, with everyone that is receiving it, and especially with me. What you're speaking of is connectivity, which we've lost so much of in, modern society. I use both of those words with sort of a not a big fan of how the human race is evolving lately. But when you spoke of if you were, maybe taking cuttings of the plants or whatever, and you would speak to them and tell them what you're going to do with them. I've done an awful lot of stone work. I have not mentioned that to you, but I actually built, some, like a stone pyramid and some shrines and things like that here. And I just intuitively did that. I just found myself connecting with, and by the way, some stones were no. And they were difficult because, your ambition, your zeal gets in the way. Well, I need to build this project now. Well, this stone said no. And so I would communicate with them, and most of them were more or less okay or yes, but I would always tell them, please allow me to bring you into part of something much bigger, where you're going to become part of something beautiful, and you will be valued and appreciated and engaged for your potential, and I found myself doing that. And I think that once you just increase your connectivity to nature, to divinity, to spirit, to self, to community, those kind of things just kind of tend to fall into place more. You just find that happening more.
Right.
Sometimes I'll rescue insects from my house, because if not, the cats will devour them, or something like that. And I'll say, oh, I'm just going to put you in this jar real quick and set you free outside. My one cat caught a field rat. This is when they were allowed to go outside at a previous place. Caught a field rat and decided to come home and show daddy. So she brought this field rat into my house and let it go. And, you know, most people would freak out over that. It was actually unbelievably adorable. I'll tell you the truth. It was like a little hamster or gerbil or something. And I very gently thanked the cat because I knew that the cat's intention was a present for daddy. Look, 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 dad, look what I did. And it's for you. So I didn't confuse her and punish her or yell at her. I just thank you very, very much. And I picked her up by the scruff and put her outside, closed the door. I went over to the field rat it was actually heartbreaking. It was literally having like asthmatic panic. It was like, because it was in the jaws of a saber-toothed tiger that was going to eat it, you know? And I went over to it, it looked right at me and I said, I'm going to help you. I won't hurt you. I just need you to help me help you. I'm going to let you go into this box. I'm not going to scare you and force you into it. I'm going to put this box here and I'm going to nudge you into it. And then I'm going to release you outside. But the deal is I have to let you outside somewhere far away because you can't live in the house and the cat will kill you if it gets you again. So I went and dropped it off at a temple right up the road. Figured it probably won't die there. So you do have this connectivity with nature, whether it's just a butterfly or sometimes a dragonfly will land on your hand or something. You just have that connectivity. And I love it and I recognize it. And when you mentioned about the wind would come and pick up and carry the ashes of the beloved away. You know, the early Christians, when they said spirit, they meant breath or wind. That's what spirit was. They said spirit is the breath of life. The wind and the breath that is what spirit is. So our understandings and our meanings kind of change. And I'm probably speaking a bit too much now, but I just wanted to also share that you talked about our perspective within the cosmic whole of nature. And when we get very disconnected from that, it seems to me that we observe the world and nature and the life within it the way a military drone looks down at its targets, which we can all relate to now. That's almost how the disconnected, unawakened mind perceives the world and the beings within it, around them. Above it, separate from it, and greater than it. Mm-hmm. And a very bad threat to it. Mm-hmm. But when we have connectivity face to face with life in all of its manifest forms, whole different perspective and a much better one.
And to me, it's you know, if people are interested in how they can be more connected with the energy field, this divine matrix that surrounds us, that I kind of see it like when I'm out in nature, I sort of dissolve myself. Yeah. I don't know any other word to use, but that word seems to work the best. I sort of dissolve who I am when I'm in nature and to just merge with nature and to share breath with the plants and to talk with them and to just have a conversation and to just be in total gratitude. And gratitude opens up. I always say that spirit is listening 24/7. And we all have our guides. We all have our spirit guides, our spiritual counsel who's right there waiting for us to connect with them.
Yeah. Soul tribe.
And soul tribe. Yeah.
That's what I call it. Yeah.
That's what you call it. Yeah. And they're beautiful, but they want to have a stronger connection with us. They want us to engage with them. And so just before we came on the Zoom today, I was outside and I was calling all my guides and I was talking with them and I was asking them, I was saying thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. And please be with us, and flow through this conversation, come and be with us, come and share with us. And that's the kind of connection, to keep, to humble ourselves enough that it's not about, this is not about me, this is about the message, whatever message they want to have come through, and to offer myself to be in, as to be humble and to just show up with just open. I open myself and I clear myself through Ho'oponopono so that I don't show up with any baggage or any preconceived ideas. I come clean, I come
Yeah.
whole, and I just offer myself to into the space.
Yeah, because we are conduits. We're conduits. We're not receptacles. We are not a vault of the things that we are given. We are conduits. The things we are given, the graces and gifts and blessings and insights and epiphanies and everything that come to us are usually given to us and received by us. And they are meant to be passed along. And so, I mean, I just think it's so beautiful that you told me you did that. I didn't know that. And I want you to know that I feel very respected and honored also indirectly by you having done that, because it shows me how much you value our shared time here that we're sharing with others as well. And thank you for
Mhm,
that. It shows me that you recognize this as meaningful,
mhm.
as our subscribers do, and I love them for that. And
Mm,
and anyone who derives meaningfulness and practical use and benefit from what we share, I'm very, very thankful for them. Um, I mentioned that I call my spiritual family. I call them my sacred soul tribe. Call them whatever you want, but acknowledge and recognize them. And you made a good point. You said that they want to help us. They need to be invited. They need to be invited. It is not their place to step in and meddle or interfere or do something that they think is for your own good, but without your consent. Or they don't do that. And neither does Keakua, neither does God. God, the supreme being creator of all that is, respects your free will and responds by true, sincere, and genuine invitation, purity of heart and humility. Ha'aha'a, you called it, right? That's the
mhm,
Hawaiian word. Picked up a new
mhm,
one there.
mhm,
And they do want to help and they're there to help, but they
mhm.
need to be invited, called upon.
Yes,
And we're
yes.
speaking, at least my understanding, if it's different for someone else, that's okay. But my understanding is it is not just your immediate ancestors, which would say, for example, begin with perhaps parents and then grandparents. They are definitely included, but it's not only them. I believe that it also goes into progeny, because there is no past and future, because
Mhm,
there is no time in spirit and there is no place. So it's every soul that you are very intimately connected to by love and care, looking out for you and love you. And so it's the ancestors, and I believe progeny as well, that are not yet manifest here where you are, but also what we call ascended masters. You might say gurus, you might say kahus, kahu would be the plural, right? Kahu is plural and
mhm.
singular.
Right.
And what that leads me to is it would also include our Aumakua.
Mhm.
And I just toss that one into your lap. Aumakua. Let us
Yeah.
know, what is
Yes.
Aumakua, Kahu?
Yes. So we have our, as you mentioned, our family, our kupuna, those who have gone before us, our makua, our parents, our um, our elders, our we would call them kupuna, our elders,
Mhm.
and Aumakua is your guardian spirits, and you can have many Aumakua. And for myself, our family has on my on my dad's side the pueo, the owl. And the point how I know this is because every time someone passes on my father's side, when my grandmother, we called her Tutu, when she passed, she showed up as a white owl. Have you seen the movie Moana, the Disney movie Moana,
Yeah,
where her grandmother passes and she turns into that big manta ray?
yeah,
It's like that. Um, so they can be family, but not necessarily family. Um, anyway, they are your guardian spirits. And as in that movie, they showed how she was always there to protect and guide her
right.
granddaughter. Uh, so that's how the pueo is for me. And the pueo shows up whenever there's a message that's to be shared with me. When I first moved here to this property, my brother and I were talking in our driveway, and we both looked up at the same time. And above us, maybe about 30 feet above us, directly over us, were two owls who came together like this. They met like this and then flew off like that, right above us. And it was as if it were the acknowledgement, you're home now. This is where you belong. And since my brother and I, we're very, very close. And that being on our father's side of the family, and this being our family property, we were home. And that was so powerful, so beautiful. So anyway, Aumakua, you can have you, and you'll know who your Aumakua are. Whoever whoever shows up for you. Um, and I also have the mano, the shark, who swims around me and eats up all, like, cleans the debris. Anything that some if I'm working with someone,
Oh,
this shark will swim around and cleanse any negativity and devour it and clean it and clear the energy. And so Aumakua is your guardian spirit. It's you'll know it's a guide for you. They show up as butterflies. They can show up as birds. They can show up as rainbow,
mm.
as
I know.
elements too. The wind can be an
Okay,
Aumakua. Yeah.
that's a good angle.
Mm-hmm.
So the wind, the rain,
Mm-hmm. A lightning. Mm-hmm.
and again, it's all about connectivity at the
Mm-hmm.
root. Um, can I grab something to show you real quick?
Yeah. I'll take a little sip of water now.
See if you can guess
Ah.
what my Aumakua is.
Oh,
The
wow.
Pu'eokea, the white owl, is mine.
Yeah.
And the reason why I know it is because it literally came to me. in what I don't know a better way to say it than a soul vision. My body was asleep. I then went, this is way more than lucid dreaming. This was like, the veil was peeled apart and I stepped out into a forest clearing about the size of like a living room or something. And it was sort of oval shaped for some reason. And all around it were the trees of the forest, but this was a cleared space of sunlight. In other words, the dawn of awareness, realization. And I stepped into it, and my immediate thought was, how did I get here and where am I? Because I had stepped out of the dimension that I'm in right now somehow. And I'm not telling you I can explain how that happened, but I stepped into it and I suddenly felt to look to my left and boom, this little owl, probably, I'm going to say that big, pure white, with 3 little dark spots on his head, which have a special meaning for me later that I later got the meaning of that. And also 3 is my sacred number as well. And this little owl landed kind of like on a branch that was on the ground. And then, from conditioning, coming from where I had been consciously, my first thought was, my God, I want to connect with that owl, but I don't want to scare him away. And so I have to move very carefully. And then I just felt, no, he's not going anywhere. He's come here for me. And I gently knelt down, extended my left arm to him. Before I even got it to the ground, he hopped onto my arm and he went right here onto my left shoulder. And telepathically, we communicated. And what he said to me is, I have been sent for you. I am here for you, to be with you. There was no sense of, I belong to you. There was none of that. It was, I've been sent from someone high up to, I've been sent for you, specifically to be with you, to help you. And so for that reason, you can see my ko'o as the owl carved with owl
Yeah.
feathers. And I can't do it without standing up, but this piece of wood, which is the star fruit tree that I brought with me from Hilo. So this wood is the star fruit from Hilo. And I had it carved here in Thailand. And if I could stand it up, you would see that this owl, just by the natural curve of the wood, which I had not foreseen or had no control over, puts that owl sitting on my left shoulder. Now I can't stand it up vertically because of the camera. And then this, which is a spiritual, it's like an obereg would be the correct term. This stone I got from an extremely sacred place in Bhutan. It was given to me by spirit. I'll have to make a story about that some other time. And I made this, or should I say this was made through me with the owl feathers. And I literally did not know what I was making. It just came through and I said, oh, maybe I'm going to make a talking stick for like a group of men to sit around a campfire and have a spiritual connection. Maybe that's what this is. No, not at all. And as Bob calls this, it's my spiritual katana. It's actually something like it's what's called a Buddhist purpa, where the negative or the toxic or undesirable is destroyed, crushed. And that's the masculine, the sacred masculine. And we need that on that end. And on this end is the sacred feminine for the blessing and bestowing. And these are all my owl feathers. So now everybody has seen those. And in a very, very special kind of a spiritual, ritualistic kind of sense, I would wear this, but for no other reason. But I just wanted you to see, this one main feather is not owl. This came to me from spirit. I don't even know what kind of bird it is. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it got where it was found. And it was then given to me. And I said, I know exactly what that's for. Wow. And these other feathers these are the snowy owl and the Ural owl. I guess I should move it that way.
Wow.
Well, thank you for indulging
Beautiful.
me and letting me explain that. I want to keep this back to
Oh,
you though.
I
Um,
love it.
yeah, but now you know that mine is mainly the pu'eokea, the white owl. I
The white
also
owl.
have the honu, which came and visited me and gave me an unbelievable experience on the Big Island, where one of them came through the water and gave me honi for like a few moments right on the navel, and then turned, looked up and smiled at me and wafted off. I'm telling you, the green sea turtle, the honu, is an angel of the water. It's a water
Mm,
angel. So I have those two that I know of.
yeah. Beautiful.
And
Yeah.
to
And
bring this back
just,
to you, yeah.
yeah, that's just part of, it's so funny. My kumu told us this story where she went to this woman's home, and she would do blessings for people's homes and for themselves. And this woman kept asking her, I really want to know what my Amakua is. I don't know what my Amakua is. And Kumu is just looking around her house, and all she sees everywhere in this woman's home are dolphins, the Naia, the dolphin. And she said, well, I'm pretty sure it's the dolphin.
Yeah, I'm getting a signal. Could be
Yeah.
dolphin.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's it. It's very
Yeah,
simple. We don't have to over, think it. It's they show up,
yeah.
and we notice them, and
And now you
boom.
know why this platform of sharing practical spiritual insights is called Brother Owl's Garden. It's in
Mm,
honor of my Aumakua, the owl, my brother, the owl.
mm.
And the
I
garden, a
I
place to tend and grow and cultivate.
it it's yes, it's just so beautiful, and it's so wonderful. It's so endearing to me too, because when I learned about the name of your podcast, and our dear friend Bob had shared with me Brother Owl's Garden, and of course, I get chicken skin whenever I hear the name owl. I'm like, oh my God, this is so meant to be. I would like to share a dream that I had as
Ooh,
well.
yeah.
This is early on my spiritual path, and I was in my dream. I don't know if you've been on the Big Island where there's Desolation Trail. I think it's called Desolation Trail.
Okay, so Kahu, the Trail of Desolation. Tell us your story.
So I had this incredible dream, and this was early on my journey, my spiritual journey. And in this dream, I'm walking on this trail, and I could see exactly where I was on. It was on the Big Island, Hawaii Island. And in the volcano area, there's this trail called Desolation Trail. And I'm walking in my dream, I'm walking on this boardwalk, and it's very misty. And as I'm walking, there's an ohia tree, without any leaves, just on the side of this boardwalk. And as I'm walking, there's a pueo, there's an owl in the tree, and it's just looking at me. And as I'm going, there's another tree with a pueo looking at me. And I kept going on this trail, and there are these big cinder cones on either side of this trail. And I'm walking, and this trail is winding like this. And there was another tree with another pueo, and another tree with another pueo. So it was such a beautiful uh way for spirit to for my Aumakua to let me know that we are with you.
Yeah,
We're guiding you.
yeah,
You have nothing to worry about. You are being guided.
yeah.
We are with you. Yes.
With
So
you each
beautiful.
step along the way.
Each step along the way.
Yeah, I love it.
Such such a beautiful gift. Yes. So I went to see my my dear Kahu Wendell Silva. I don't know. Do you remember Wendell Silva?
I
Kahu Wendell
not only
Silva?
remember, but I'm in touch with him and I love him beyond words. And I have also invited him to come on, but he's not doing so well right now and needs some help with working on Zoom. But he's agreed in principle to come on. It's just a matter of getting it set up for him that he can. Yes, I know
Yeah.
him well. I love him.
Oh, love Kahu Silva. Anyway, so he was very instrumental in the beginning of my journey.
And his
And
Amakua is also the pueo, by the way.
oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay. And I shared with him my dream, and he said, "Oh, yes." So he goes, you're beginning you're becoming a sage. You're entering into this new realm, and your Aumakua are there. Your ancestors are there, showing up for you. They're letting you know that you're on the right path, and that they are helping to guide you. And so uh, I had this I had this other dream. This was a very interesting dream. I I'm in this dream. I'm talking to people, and the light is coming from behind them, and it's the sunlight, and so they're silhouetted. But we're having this lovely conversation, and then my back is kind of to a wall, and it's a charcoal gray wall, and they say, "Oh, turn around and look behind you." So I look behind me. There is a snake on the wall, laying horizontally against the wall, alive, but very much at peace, very peaceful, just there, and blended in perfectly with the color of the wall, which is muted, a matte charcoal gray color.
Mhm.
And at first I was startled, but then I realized, oh, it's so peaceful. The snake is just resting. And so I shared that with Kahu Silva, and he says, "Oh, that's your kundalini, your spiritual um, kundalini power that's awakening." Okay, so this is way back in the beginning, and yeah, it just love paying attention to dreams, and still the dreams nowadays are, this is so many dreams are bringing so many messages.
Yeah, and the snake is also it can symbolize wisdom,
Yes, that's
similar to
right.
the owl. Depending on the culture, this first of all, the snake is literally like the most common archetype in all dreams is the serpent or the snake, and because it symbolizes so many things, but clearly in your dream it was a positive and strong. I got a sense of power and wisdom, and I want to say, I don't want to use the word authority too powerfully, but like that is your rightful place, of that you are stepping into. You are meant for that. You are worthy and deserving of that. That is your true place, in the sense of what you have stepped into now as a kahu. That's what I
Mhm.
got from that.
Yeah.
Um, and also, speaking of lovely animals, I think that Chuki would like to say hello to you.
Like,
Say hello to
hello. Oh my
Kahu.
gosh. Look.
Mhm.
Look
This
how
is Chuki.
beautiful.
Yeah, she's the one that's gonna get the geckos if they go a little too low on the walls. But she's pure love, believe me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Lotus is lazing out somewhere else off camera. So, but Kahu Lāhela, in wrapping it up for our viewers and our wonderful conversation, which is very obvious that I've enjoyed so much. Um, is there some kind of a little parting nugget that you might like to leave us with, um, in the context of what you've gathered, the gems that you've gathered along your own spiritual path, something that you'd like to leave us with today? And I also hope that you'll come back again, by the way. I hope this is not a
Oh,
one-time thing, but that's up to you. You're always
of,
open
of
door welcoming.
course.
Yeah.
Of course. This is so wonderful. It's so fun to just be in this the space with you. I mean, I have
Likewise.
you are plus how many hours ahead of us? I don't know. We're here in Hawaii. It's 6:30. It's there for you. It's 11:30.
About 11:37 or so right now for me.
11:37. Yeah.
Yeah. The
I don't
difficult
know. I
time
mean,
zone is the US mainland West Coast. That's the difficult one, but the rest are not too bad. Yeah.
okay. Okay. But to be in this space with you, thank you so much. It's just such a wonderful. I love having these conversations. To me, it's inspiring, and to have conversation, because there aren't many people who understand or comprehend, when I start going deeper in conversation. But like, I feel like we can have these beautiful conversations, and it the so I thank you so much. I would love to return. What would I love to share? What is a nugget that I would love to share? Well, the first thing that came to mind was an oli, a Hawaiian chant.
Perfect.
I would love to share a Hawaiian oli with you, with your listeners, your beautiful audience here, that this particular oli is to clear the pathway ahead. And so it's as if you're standing in front of a very dense forest, and you cannot make your way, you cannot see a trail through the forest. So this is a call out to the Amakua, the guardian spirits in your ahupua, in your valley, wherever you may be, anywhere in the world. And this is a call to your Amakua to ask that the pathway ahead be cleared, so that you can have clarity and grace to lead you and guide you. This is Nohoana. Nohoana kia koe tana hele hele. Ia lai e te ti oho e taua kō. E nā kino malu i talani malu e ho e. E ho lumai ana o laka i kona mau kahu. O mākou, o mākou no ai.
Kahu Lāhela Johnson, the beautiful island of Oahu. Mahalo nui loa. Thank you so much for sharing of yourself and of your journey and of your treasure trove of experiences and the insights that have arisen from them. Thank you for honoring me and my viewers by coming onto this platform to do so and to share as you have. Thank you. Mahalo, mahalo, mahalo. You are loved here, and there's no need to reinstate a welcome. Come by anytime.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I wish you the purest aloha always.
Always.
And may we all remain and reinforce our connectedness, our connectivity to the sacred, to the divine, to nature, to self, to community, and to spirit, because we are all children of God. We are all sovereign, individuated emanations of the divinity from which we have arisen. Aloha kahu. Thank you.
Aloha. Ahui ho.
Ahui ho.